So, Subash, you're a senior director in finance at DELL Technologies. I'd be very interested in your reflections on artificial intelligence, particularly at the moment, and some of the opportunities that that may present to finance people right now.
Thank you, Jamie. Artificial intelligence, I mean, it's the buzzword now, and it is definitely having a lot of opportunities when you look at it from end to end from finance, and a lot of, in various places that we do. If you start either from the record to report or the P2P, if there are a lot of processes which can be translated back into simple equations or simple or process-driven or formula-driven transactions can always be automated looking at AI. Because essentially, what is AI? You're trying to mimic a certain level of human thinking or the human brain. That's my understanding of AI. Of course, I'm not professing that I'm an expert in AI, but I'm trying to understand from a finance function perspective, what is AI and what it offers. So when you look at it and when you dissect the various processes that we have in the finance and the accounting functions, a lot of it can be broken down into smaller components where it is nothing but a selection of different options that we have. So there may be complex calculations involved. There may be multiple choices that have to be evaluated and accepted. But all of these is something that an AI engine can do. Because if you have seen something so simple as we get so many calls when we are doing our banking transactions, I mean, a lot of it is AI driven, because it's not that you're always talking to somebody out there, but it is all something that can be programmed at the back end and which can take care of through the various options that are presented to you. In a similar fashion, it's something that we can always work out. For example, let me try to give you a few examples. If you talk about forecasting, I mean, how do you forecast? I mean, there is a lot of inputs that you take. Of course, you look at the historical performance. You have the market inputs that coming in terms of how the industry is doing. And a lot of those factors, and of course, there may be a certain amount of variations that each company or each organization may decide to fit in within that. So if you see, ultimately, it boils down to something that a system can do. You don't necessarily need somebody looking at that and then doing it, but perhaps the person who is working on it can focus a lot more on gathering the more relevant market inputs and feeding it into, rather than sitting and trying to work on the calculations themselves. If you think about things like accruals, for example, what is an accrual? It is nothing but an estimate of what you think a transaction is going to happen, because it is not yet got recorded, but the event has happened. And how do you estimate it today? I mean, it is not that somebody looks at a crystal ball and finds out something, but again, those accountants have certain inputs based on which they compute what it could be. It could either be some historical information or some other information which is already available within the organization somewhere. So all of these can definitely be automated. Another example would be in terms of when you try to detect frauds in the transactions flow. How sure am I that my transaction flows right, that there is not some fraudulent transaction or something that's coming in? Today, how is it done if there is somebody who's manually checking it? Is nothing but red flags that people look for. So all of that can also be automated to kind of throw out only those exceptions, and those people can focus on those vital few, rather than all of the transactions. I mean, these are perhaps a lot more simpler examples I'm talking, but this can be taken forward to a much more complex situations within any organization. And again, depending upon which industry you're in, the applications can be a lot more. But that's something that's really exciting. And I definitely feel it can add a lot of value to the finance function. And in that process, the finance function can add a lot more value to the business than what we are doing today. And that's what is going to really help us move forward. That's my view.
Thank you, Subash. We're at a very interesting point with technology. It seems like a point of inflection. The rate of change that we're seeing and the developments that we're seeing in the technology landscape is obviously very significant at the moment. And with that comes some nervousness from employees, probably around their own jobs, their own roles, their own careers. As technology changes, what are your reflections on, as an employer, how do you support your employees to upskill, particularly around artificial intelligence at the moment?
So I think that's a very valid point, Jamie, because it's not something new. Because right from the days when we started talking about computerization a few decades ago, this has always been there. But if you look at history, it has only helped create more roles and more specializations rather than completely going away. And I expect a similar thing would happen here. But what is important is that people have to upskill themselves, because they need to get ready for the future, because the rate of change is so fast now, not what it was a decade or 2 decades back. The rate of change is much more faster. I mean, what's valid here last year may not be valid for 2024. So as organizations, as employers, it is very important for us to see we are able to provide the access and the abilities for our employees to learn what is happening here and learn the new skills and try to acquire those skill sets so that they can also get prepared for the future. And this can be in very many ways, because there are enough tools available out there, and people need to understand, first of all, the term AI is something that people, like you rightly said, are bothered about. So first, we need to demystify what AI is to people. And we need to kind of understand what and explain to them what it can do and how it can help them perform their own jobs a lot better. And then you try to move up the value chain of the responsibilities or the tasks that you do. And you may become a lot more consultative or advisory rather than performing transactions. You may still have certain inputs into those particular specific transactions, which will again feed into the larger the AI or whatever we term it, the automated flow of transactions. But the human input or the human touch can never be completely replaced. That's my view. There's always things that where a human will have to come in and then give certain inputs, but that does not necessarily mean I need to perform it exactly the same way I'm doing it today.
Yeah. Let me ask you a final question, Subash, which is around your own personal optimism. Reflecting on technology, reflecting on particularly artificial intelligence at the moment and all of the current interest in that, are you optimistic about how these technologies are going to help finance people, accountants, do more interesting work in the future, add more value to their enterprises? Tell me about your own personal optimism with technologies. How excited are you with what we're going to see?
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I mean, this is something that we've been, within my organization also, we've been talking a lot about it, and it's something that we are working through. We are trying to identify opportunities that are challenging the status quo. And yes, initially there are some resistances, but when you're able to explain it to people, people really understand how it can help and what difference can I make. And we basically have to enable them and explain to them, dispel their fears first, and explain to them, okay, this is what it's going to do. Yes, it may be doing what you're perhaps doing today, but this is how your role is going to kind of get transformed in the future. And if you're able to explain that to them, and that's when you have people embracing the change a lot better. Otherwise, if you just try to implement something, there will always be concerns and resistance. That's not what we want. And this is how we are trying to approach. I mean, that's why we try to design a lot of training programs for people. And it's not a 1 month or a 1 quarter journey. It's a multi-year journey to get people comfortable, to expose them to what it offers, and then to encourage some of them even to kind of get more digitally savvy, if I may use that word. Not just being aware. One is being aware, and then some people may be interested to get a lot more savvy about it. And I have seen that myself. There are people, my team, who are finance professionals, but they like kind of creating something, small codes. They are not going to be transformed into IT professionals for sure, but small things that they themselves can do, and they enjoy doing it. And people really take pride in some of those achievements. And when you recognize those, then it only encourages more and more people to do that. And that's the journey that we are working on. And so far, I have definitely found it pays, and it works, and it pays.